everyone and welcome to my new video. This is Colin McRae Rally on the Sony PlayStation. This was one of the first serious rally games that I came across, and I was trying to pick my words carefully there. It certainly wasn't the first rally game that I played, but what really made this stand out from the others was this in no way was an arcade type rally game. This to me was the first time that I came across a game or a rally game that the developers tried to put some kind of real world physics together. There'd been Sega Rally in the arcades, and that was pretty much a Sega game. It was a arcade based, but this was a real serious attempt to try to convey the actual feel of rallying, I guess. And it's a very, very good game. It is excellent, but it is also a remarkably tough game. Even on the easy difficulties, there is a hell of a challenge to be had here. It is one of the toughest rally games around, even by today's standards. I mean, today's rally games are relatively straightforward compared to this. I mean, don't get me started on the Dirt series. I do enjoy playing them, but by God, they don't hold a candle to Colin McRae Rally, the Colin McRae Rally series, really. But they don't really hold a candle to it in terms of gameplay and in terms of a challenge. I mean, I could very much sort of methodically go through the latest Dirt game, Dirt 3. It seemed relatively straightforward. This thing can be an absolute beast to try to get through, to try to conquer. Graphically as well, this is really impressive for a PlayStation 1 game. The car's very well detailed. It looks very pretty. The environments look very detailed as well. It's worth noting this isn't an actual official WRC game, so it's not the official WRC courses, although it is sort of loosely based on them somewhat. But this was quite the revelation when it came out, really, because of the fact that there was such an attention to detail in it. And just the fact as well, it was such a good looking game. Obviously, again, it's one of these issues with racing games. When you compare them with today's racing games, they do look very, very dated. There's no doubt about it that the PlayStation graphics were very, very limited compared to today's behemoth consoles. But I mean, it still looks really good for a PlayStation game. There's not a great deal in the way of pop-up, which is something that always plagued PlayStation games, especially racing games where you were moving along at quite some pace. I mean, there is a little bit in the distance, but we're talking about trackside objects, little bits of detail that pop in. You're not talking about the actual track itself, which was a real big problem. I mean, if you look at my Carmageddon video, you'll see the total difference in terms of the quality of graphics. And as I say, especially when it comes to the draw distance, I absolutely love this game for so many different reasons. But I say mainly because even now it's a challenge, but it's playable. It's a very, very playable game. And this was the sort of trick that Codemasters, more so back then than I will say today, I mean, that's open for debate, but this is just my opinion. I think Codemasters were better able to balance a challenge with actual playability back then. I mean, I think that the way that the sort of Colin McRae, well, it's not Colin McRae anymore. I mean, the last game of his was Colin McRae Dirt, which was the first real major departure from the series. I mean, the series now isn't about rallying. I mean, it does have rally sections in it, but it also has a whole other assorted nonsense in there, which to my mind just totally spoil it. I mean, stuff like Gymkhana, which is just like, you know, arsing around with a rally car is just not entertaining to me at all. It's just ridiculous. It's frustrating and it's boring. You know, I like doing this. This is what rallying is all about. Driving like a madman on roads that you shouldn't be driving like a madman on. Beating your car up and trying to beat the time that's set by the AI vehicles. That's what it's all about. I don't like the way that the series has taken, the direction that the series has taken, where it seems to be trying to appeal to a wider audience, which, you know, again is bizarre because the Colin McRae games were exceptionally good sellers. There was quite a considerable number of games in the series. I'm not too sure how many there were, but there was a large number of games in the series, and you know, it is a bit frustrating that Codemasters have gone down this path. Now this particular, the snow course in Sweden is one of the most frustrating things ever, because the minute you hit the snow at the side of the road, it just slows the vehicle right down, and yeah, it pretty much makes it impossible to win. As I say, the level of difficulty in this game is immense. You know, it doesn't take much for you to lose a lead. It certainly doesn't take much for you to fall behind. And once you fall a few seconds behind, you pretty much have to start nailing the tracks spot on if you want to actually win, or even, you know, finish in the top 3. It can become quite a phenomenal challenge. The other great thing about this as well is that the pace notes were read out by Colin McRae's. I think it was this one that had Colin McRae's co-driver in. I might be mistaken, but it was certainly the case. If it wasn't in this one, he certainly, Nicky Grist and then later on Derek Ringer, they both ended up contributing the pace notes. I'm not too sure if Nicky Grist did it on this one. I think he did, but I'm not 100% sure. But it adds to an authenticity. You've got a guy who does reading out pace notes for a living, actually doing it, and it really is important that you listen to what he says. Like in Dirt, you can turn the volume off and you can get away with just reading, you know, the arrow signals at the top, or just sort of ad-libbing your way through each course. That is something you cannot do in these Colin McRae games. You have to listen to what's coming up, otherwise things like that happen and you end up facing the wrong way. And when a game punishes you quite relentlessly for making mistakes like that, yeah, you definitely have to keep your ears open. You definitely have to keep them tuned in to what's going on. But yeah, I really enjoyed going back playing this game, even though this particular snow level frustrated the living hell out of me. There was still a lot of enjoyment to it. One of the other things as well is I particularly like the way the car on stages where there's a lot of dirt and stuff like that, the actual car itself will start to get dirty, and it again, it's something else that's taken for granted these days, but it wasn't a common thing to actually have body deformations and dirt and dust and God knows what else crap accumulating on the car, and it really did show that, you know, Codemasters were pushing the boat out in terms of trying to get as close to reality as possible, because between the stages you get the opportunity to repair your car, and it becomes a little bit of tactical importance in itself, because if you've really bashed your car up, you need to make sure that you choose the right things to repair in order for you to remain competitive in the next stage, because if you don't, it doesn't matter how well you're racing, if you can't hit the right gears or you've got an overheating engine or whatever, you're going to lose time. I'm driving so badly on this bit, it's untrue. And there's a beauty as well, with rally games, you don't have to stick to the track, you can always go for a little detour if things are going really bad. Well, as you can see, here it's just going from bad to worse. And again, just here as well, there's different views you can select as well. There's the usual, in-car, over the bonnet type of thing. And again, it's something that you take for granted these days, but actually, back then, it wasn't something that was always present in racing games. And again, it was just another bit of detail that Codemasters threw in there. But anyway, I'm rambling on now. I'm going a bit mad rambling on here. So yeah, that's Colin McRae on the Sony PlayStation. Thank you for watching.